Welcome to the Eye on Preps podcast. I'm Chip Souza with the Hawgs Sports Network, joined by Erick Taylor of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, a multitasking guy who covers both high school and college. He's had a wild ride with the Harding University going to a championship game this week. He's also on top of that high school action, which capped the football season last week at War Memorial and Eve. We got a lot to talk about today.
A whole lot, man. It's a good Monday, man. Good Monday.
Yeah. So let's start with the state championship games. We were down to the final two classifications on Saturday at War Memorial Stadium. We had the 4A game and the 3A game played. We'll start with the 4A game. What a wild scoring game like we thought it would be. Harding Academy, they get a 43-35 win against Rivercrest. Harding said, you know what, we're only going to be in 4A for just a couple of years, but we're going to make the most of it.
Make the most of it, man. And they couldn't ask for a better way to cap that off for sure, man, with what they did Saturday, man. And I'm glad the rain kind of held off or kind of slacked up, so to speak, and before that. And it made for a good game.
It did. Harding Academy caps off a 15-0 season. They jumped out to a big lead, but Rivercrest said, wait. We're going to cut back a little bit in this, and the coach did come back.
You got to know they weren't going to lay down,
yeah.
man. And Harding's done that all year. They've jumped out to a big lead, and normally they, for the most part, probably more so than not, they've held teams off and ended up pulling away big. But, hey, Rivercrest wasn't going easily, man. And as long as you got a Turner in the backfield,
right.
you got a shot, man.
That's right. Tailwind Turner.
Man, literally.
So Harding jumps out to a 15-0 lead. Looks like they're going to go win in blowout fashion. Owen Miller, their quarterback, he's throwing, running, all that to get to a big lead. But then Rivercrest did come back, and they were able to make it a one-possession game late, but Harding kind of held on. But another big game you mentioned, Kobe Turner, 287 yards, all-purpose yards, had a couple of catches, and, of course, ran the ball well. But, man, Owen Miller, the quarterback for Harding Academy, he is a dude.
I was just going to say, he's a dude, man.
Yeah.
And he's in his blood, man. He's got brothers that were dudes as well. He's just carrying on in that line. He shows up in the biggest of games, man. He's done it all year long. He's done it really since he's been on the center when he took over when Cade Smith decided to concentrate on baseball last year. But he's been that guy. It has not been a drop-off. He just continually gets better, and I put him along. He reminds me a lot of Kane Archer as far as them playing early, but not taking off at all. Not being a drop off with the quarterbacks before them, just kind of ascending, and they play big in those big games, man. And he did that Saturday.
362-yard passing, accounted for 5 touchdowns. This game, was named the MVP as he should have been. So Harding Academy, if those of you who don't know or maybe new to the show or haven't followed it as much. When the Arkansas Activities Association a couple of years ago passed a resolution or a bill called the competitive equity factor, they take into account point totals accumulated by teams, not non-public teams, in various sports, and if they exceed a certain number of points, they have to bump them to classification. Well, Harding Academy being in the state finals last year, first they were bumped up to 4A, then being in the state championship game last year and then winning it this year, they have accumulated enough points where they're going to bump them to Class 5A next year. So Harding only got to play 2 years in 4A. We're in championship games both years. Now they get to go to 5A. We know what's waiting on them in 5AE.
Right, exactly, man. I don't know what the conference they'll be in, man, but it's a little some heat in 5A, man.
Yeah.
But you know what? I expect them to compete.
They will.
And Harding's not going to take a backseat to anyone. They got a system in place, and the quarterbacking. I mean, it's almost like it doesn't matter who's the quarterback that you're going to produce. And you've got to be that guy, and they've had those year in, year out. I think Owen's got another year back.
He's junior.
He'll be back 2 yeyears.
Yeah.
So I expect him to compete, man.
It's interesting because used to, when you would look at Class 5A, you would look at, okay, there's Pulaski Academy you got to beat, or Little Rock Christian you got to beat, or whatever. Sometimes Harrison, would be that team. Next year, 5A is going to look completely different. 6A is going to look completely different. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But because of the competitive equity factor, you got Pulaski Academy, Little Rock Christian moving up, Harding moving up, Shiloh Christian moving up. And what that's going to do is create a waterfall effect with some really good public schools, bumping down or being in classifications without these teams, which kind of opens up more opportunities for them. So we'll see how that works out.
It's gonna be interesting, that's for sure.
No doubt about it. Class 3A. Now, this was a game that was played at noon on Saturday at War Memorial. Boonville 25, Prescott 22. But I don't know if you saw the ending of this game, but this was a very controversial ending to this game.
You know, I didn't see it, but probably about 3:30, I was in the press conference for Harding and Leonard Wines football game, and I got probably about 7 or 8 texts,
Wow.
and about 4 of them were from coaches, high school coaches,
Yeah.
asking me, "Man, did you see this? Did you see that?" I had no idea what they were talking about until I actually was going through X and reading, and then reading some of the comments and things like that, and I'm like, wow. So I never actually saw it, but based on what they were telling me and what you just mentioned, man, it had to be some controversy in it with that one.
Let me set the scene. So Prescott had scored a touchdown to make it 20, to pull within 3, 25-22. They tried an onside kick. They didn't recover it. So Boonville got the ball around the 40-yard line, 40-something yard line, and they were working the clock. Prescott was calling timeouts. So with about a minute left, Boonville was facing a 4th and 2. They went for it on 4th down rather than punt. They went for it. And Dax Goff, their star running back, got the ball, and he dove into the line. I was watching the game on my phone at a restaurant in Fayetteville, and I'm like, he didn't get it. He's short. He didn't get it, And the officials signaled that he didn't get it. It was going to be Prescott's ball at about, the 48-yard line, right about midfield, with a minute to go. And so then they signaled Prescott's ball, and the offense for Prescott comes on the field. The defense for Boonville's there, but there's a player hurt. Player on the ground hurt. Don't remember if it's a Prescott player or Boonville, one or the other. Anyway, so they decided to go back and measure. After they'd already signaled the other way, they went back and measured it. Don't know if the ball had been moved. Don't know. Didn't see all that. They go back and measure it, and the ball was ahead of the chains by about a half a ball. And
Wow.
so Boonville gets the first down, and they ran out the clock. And of course, the Prescott coach, Brian Glass, just went ballistic, on the sideline, as you would. You can't blame him for that at all. And
right.
Anyway, that's the way it went down.
Oh man, that's tough, man. And I knew when I was reading those things and getting the text and things of that nature that it's something. I know they mentioned about the ball being short and everything like that, but that's tough to swallow, man.
Yeah.
When you think you got them stopped and you're about to change possessions,
Yeah.
and just so happens a kid's hurt, and then they go back and measure, and that's tough, man. Because at that point, I don't know what the explanation was from the officials. If Coach Glass, and I know Coach Glass, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
And for him to get set off like that, because he's as calm as they come, but for him to get to react that way, it must have really been eating away at him with that, and understandably so with something like that. But that's tough, and we don't know how the game would have turned out if Prescott had got the ball and got it anyway. But still, just to think one thing and then all of a sudden there's something else. That's rough,
Yeah.
man.
Well, in Graham Thomas's story, Glass is quoted saying, "We were just ready to call a play, and the next thing we know, they're measuring. There was no measurement necessary. The ball didn't get to the line they had to get to for a first down. They didn't measure anything all night, and all of a sudden they measure, and the chain was not where it was. I don't know what that means. But the chain was on that yard line. I have no idea what happened.
Wow.
So it's a lot less controversial if you measure the ball right as soon as the play ended. You're like, hey, it's close.
Right, exactly.
Let's measure. I don't know why they didn't measure at that point, but they didn't. They just spotted the ball and said Prescott ball, and Prescott sidelines are going nuts. There's a player hurt. Next thing you know, they are measuring. The ball is now across the first down marker. It all, it lends itself to controversy when it comes down that way.
It's like, and you can, as officials, kind of save yourself for that flag initially, if they signal first down Prescott initially, then obviously they're seeing that maybe the ball is not where the line that they should gain.
Right.
But then you come back and then you measure You know,
Yeah.
it's just
It's a
wild, man. You
weird
know,
ending.
and I hate to for games to end that way,
Yeah.
especially in that fashion. Like you just mentioned, man, it'd be different if it was measured right there when when the ball got to the whatever spot was, but
Yeah.
then you wait moments later and then measure. Who knows if things were moved, the ball was moved up. I don't, of course, we don't know that.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
we don't know.
yeah, we don't know. But again, that's tough to swallow, man.
It
But either way, I mean, hats off to both teams, particularly Boonville. They did what they had to do to
They
win the
did.
game. These been the two best teams in the class all
No
year,
doubt.
and
No doubt.
it just turned out that way as well.
Now, Dax Goff for Boonville had a monster game for them, 245 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. He's also the guy who recovered the onside kick there at the end. We mentioned, Eric, you're going down this week to cover Harding University down. They're playing for a national championship. Well, guess who who will be signing with them here in a couple of weeks is Dax Goff. And
that fits him perfectly,
yes,
man. I mean, and I think a lot of people, and we'll talk about this shortly, but a lot of people kind of they look at what Harding does and just kind of it's boring ball or whatever. No, it's really
no,
not boring ball. And
at
you
all.
got stud running backs. That system. I mean, even the receivers. I mean, they use a lot of receivers. And they remind me a lot of. And I've always respected Coach Jones when he was at Greenwood. Aside from being just a great coach all of his receivers do more than just catch the ball.
Yeah,
they block on the edge. They do different things. Harding does the same thing, just in a run-oriented offense. And guys like Dax will flourish in that offense, man. And I love watching the way they play football and they run it. And he's going to plug in and going to probably play early.
It's interesting because the flex bone is a blue collar type offense, tough running, and you're like, well, they just got a bunch of plotters that can't break off big plays or whatever. I'm like, no, you're missing the whole point.
Exactly.
Where you might have a running back somewhere that I mean, like for example, the dude from EPC Gaines. He's a dude that might get a seam and take it 80 to the house, okay? And he can do that untouched. Dax Goff can go 80 on you, but he's going to stiff arm 3 or 4 guys to the ground, and that's still going to be that same 80 yards. He's just doing it in a different way.
Exactly, man. And they've got several guys in an offense that are actually that were legit tailbacks. For instance, Braden Jay was at Cabot a year or two ago.
Yeah,
and he was a scat back tailback, but he's in that offense, and he does what he does, And I love watching him, man. And Dax Goff, like I said, he's a kid that's going to fit right in with what they're doing. And it's special to see, and it's been great to watch that kid in high school, man. I mean, because like you said, if you tackle him, you're going to feel it. It's not going to be an arm tackle. Not 1-2 guys are going to bring him down.
No.
He's going to keep churning out yards, man. And eventually, like I said, he may break an 80-yarder, 75-yarder. But you're gonna feel it, whatever you do, And it's just been great to watch that kid play ball.
This is the season he had this year. Goff, 2,699 yards this season for his career, 5,961 yards. Just missed by 39 yards, going over the 6,000 yard mark. He is a football player.
Football player.
Yes.
Man. He gets it done on both sides of the ball, too. I mean, he's a legit. You hit the nail on the head, man. He's a football player, they come through Boonville a lot, man. But he's special, man. He's really special. And I know that may sound cliche, but that kid, he's got the goods, man.
Yep. All right, so ET, I'm putting it on you. Got Owen Miller, got Dax Goff. Owen Miller, Dax Goff. Who's your player of the week?
I got to go with Owen, man.
Yeah.
And you can almost go, 1A, 1B.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with Owen, man. That kid, again, and he's an underclassman.
Yeah.
And shine on that stage, in that big, arena, not arena, but stadium. And to do what he do, put on a show and put those guys on his back with his legs, with his arms. He shows so much poise, which he's done, like I said, since he's taken over that job, last year. Just to do what he did, man, it's huge. Not taking anything away from Dax, of course.
No, it's you mentioned it, 1A, 1B.
I gotta get Owen, man.
Yeah. And that will wrap up this first segment of the Eye on Preps podcast. And when we come back after this break, we'll talk about the final high school rankings. We'll be right back.
Stay on top of all Arkansas Razorback sports with a Digital Plus subscription on the Hawgs Illustrated app. Get complete Razorbacks coverage in one location. Your subscription gives you 20-plus issues of Hawgs Illustrated magazine, the most unique and compelling coverage anywhere in the state, plus total access to all the content on WholeHogSports.com, including breaking news, commentaries, analysis, features, recruiting, award-winning photos, and premium message boards. Subscriptions start at just $17 per month. Join the Hawgs Sports Network team at subscribe.waco.com. That's subscribe.wehco.com. Or call 479-684-5509 to get your front row seat to Arkansas Razorback sports. Go Hogs!
And we are back with the Eye on Preps podcast. I'm Chip Souza with the Hawgs Sports Network, and I'm with Erick Taylor with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. E.T., I cannot believe the football season's over. It seems like it went by really fast.
And we've talked about this before, man. We wait, months and months and months for it to get here. We're ecstatic. We go through summer football camps and things like that. Then we go to tour days in August. And then once it gets here, that's great. And then it just zooms by just like that, man. It's almost a bittersweet type thing. But, it was another, outstanding season by all these teams in high school football, man. It's rough to see it go, man.
Yeah. So many big highlights, too, this season. You had Drake Lindsay at Fayetteville, setting the record in the state's largest classification for most touchdown passes in a season with 52. You had Bo Williams almost get 400 against Little Rock Christian, a team that shook that loss off and made it back to the state championship game in 6A. You had the emergence of Kane Archer at Greenwood in his first season as the starting quarterback, and kind of seeing how his career is going to shape up, and why he is one of the top recruits at his position in the country in that 2026 class. You saw Little Rock Parkview just continue to just dominate people, no matter what classification they were, 7A, 5A, it didn't matter. So just lots of really big highlights this season.
And that's one of the things that made it such a special year, man. With so many highlights, so many narratives and things of that nature, man. You mentioned 3 or 4 just then, with Bryant, having their 5-year run in
coaching change.
And coaching change with all that, man. Just so much, and the high level play that some of the smaller classifications had this year as well, man. It was a special season, to put it in those terms, man. So much went on week in and week out. It wasn't just a 1 week thing or a 1 or 2 game thing. This was every Friday night. You had big things happening by different teams, different players, different coaches. Just a great year all over, man.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to introduce the idea for a new reality show where we would take Kevin Kelly and put him at the smallest 2A playing football school that hasn't had any success, and see how he could do for a season. And then the next year we move him to another school. Then the next year move him to another school. And I think it would be a great reality show just to follow Kevin Kelly around the state and see what he could do in 1 year's time at some of these schools like that hadn't had much success. Would that be a good show?
That would be a good show, man. Yeah. And I guarantee you have a lot of people tuning in.
Yeah,
tuning in,
exactly.
Just for that, man. I've heard ramblings of him possibly getting back into coaching as of late. But that would be special, man. That'd be something for sure. I'm definitely tune in to see that.
Well, I want to see Kevin Kelly coaching again. That's what I want to see for
definitely,
sure.
Definitely, man. With what he does and the passion he has. A lot of it's made about, his offense and things of that nature, man. But just the passion he coaches with.
Yeah.
There's enough to just get me revved up.
Yeah.
And I would love to see him back on the sideline.
That would be a good show. So let's talk about the final rankings, E, in the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, because this was kind of debated back and forth a little bit on a fellow podcast with Graham Thomas and Leland Barclay and Rick Fires, one that they do up here, Prep Rally podcast. So in the final rankings for us, the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, we got Little Rock Parkview ranked number 1 overall. 5A school. They went undefeated at 14-0, beat 3 7A schools in the non-conference. E, we have them ranked number 1. Tell me about that ranking.
That's one that really, and I mean, just me and what I'm thinking is almost undisputed, so to speak,
I
in
think
my
so too.
eyes, because
Yeah.
I think, and we've said this time and time again on the show, they've been the best team in the state, all year. When they went on the road early in the year and knocked off Bryant, that said a lot.
Yes.
First of all, when you're a 5A school and then you go to someone else a home field, let alone 5A defending state 7A champ,
Yeah.
and do that, and then follow that up with beat down after beat down after beat down against really good teams.
Yeah.
And then again, and a lot of times we throw the eye test around a lot. They have the eye test, and for me, it was a no-brainer. I know, Fayetteville and Greenwood and those two teams, which, deservedly so.
Yeah,
They handled their business as well, particularly Greenwood. I love that Greenwood team. But, and I think, those who have either one of those teams ahead of Parkview, they're probably some justifications and things with that nature. But just for me, Parkview has been that team, since week 3, man, and they've backed it up week after week after week. And that the last game against a really, really good Shiloh Christian team that, came to Little Rock and beat down the 6A runner-up.
Yeah.
Early in the year, man, you don't see Shiloh get beat like that. I don't know when the last time Shiloh has have been beaten like that. And Parkview did it in a way that they've done every week this year.
They could have put 80. They could have put 80 up.
Played the game.
Yeah, they could have put 80 up that night if they had really pressed the issue. They could have. I saw the best Shiloh Christian team ever in 2010 go down and try to play with a team from Texas, Euless Trinity.
Euless Trinity, yeah.
Yeah.
It was. I remember watching that game on ESPN. I think it what it was, and it wasn't pretty.
No,
at all.
No. But so Parkview number 1, Fayetteville number 2, 13-0. Bulldogs go 13-0. First time to go undefeated, I think, in a long time. First state championship for the 7A West Conference since 2016. Kudos to Casey Dick and the Fayetteville Bulldogs. What a terrific season they had. What a terrific, senior season for Drake Lindsay, who's going to Minnesota. Great job all the way around there. Greenwood, again, another perfect season for them. 13-0, won the 11th state championship in program history. Whoever stepped on the field against them this year got sent back home on that loser bus. And, you can't say enough about what Chris Young has done there at Greenwood, taking over a program for Rick Jones, when I use this term legend, I don't know any other word to describe that guy but a legend. And the Bulldogs, man, a great season and capped it off in style.
In style, man. I mean, it's Greenwood. I mean, they have a expectation there, and when Chris took over, he just continued their expectations, man, and they just turn in great teams after great teams, and what they did this year, again against some pretty good competition as well, especially when they got to deep in the playoffs, man. It's just amazing what they've been able to do.
Ian, something else that we don't really talk about that much was not only the fact that Chris Young took over that Greenwood program for Rick Jones, he also lost Zach Watson.
Yep.
The offensive coordinator there, who came up to Elkins, and we see what he's doing at Elkins.
Right.
Yeah. So, that was Rick Jones leaving, going to Missouri to be on Eli Drinkwitz's staff, and I'm not sure what his role is, but he's got a role in the football program under Eli Drinkwitz. And then he loses Zach Watson, who comes up to Elkins and does what nobody's been able to do at Elkins before. So, for Chris Young to be able to withstand, that kind of loss, just speaks volumes about what he's been able to do at Greenwood.
Exactly, man. And no one believes it's going to fall off anytime soon.
No.
With Greenwood. I mean, as long as he's there, Kane Archer's still there. They're going to always shovel out receivers. You're going to always have stud receivers. You're going to always have great linemen. You're going to always have a stud back or two that can turn out yards, man. That's just the program that they have in place. And I remember, Rick Jones telling me years ago, that he starts his kids off, early with his system.
Yeah.
Back in elementary, coming on up.
Yeah.
So by the time they get to high school, man, it's second nature. And it's just kind of a fine-tuned thing, man. I don't expect that to change at all no time soon.
Well, E, you mentioned it last week, and you hit it, perfectly right on the head. Greenwood is quarterback high. You
Mhm,
take a look at the lineage there in the chain. It starts with Daniel Stigall,
mhm,
Connor Nolan, Tyler Wilson, Hunter Houston, now Kane Archer. It just there's seems to be always a stud waiting in the wings for their opportunity to come in, and when they do, they
mhm.
excel.
They excel, man. And again, they don't expect anything differently, and they've been learning the system since they were young. By the time they get to the varsity level, man, it's all about precision and fine tuning at that point, man, and just ascending to get better and better and better. Which every quarterback that comes through that system gets better and better and better and better. By the time they get senior, they're usually one of the top 2, 3, or 4 quarterbacks in the state at that time.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting next year to see, and we're going to talk about this now, and we'll wrap up the show with this segment. So 2024 conference realignment, the Arkansas Activities Association will make this official on Thursday, but we got a whole lot of shaking going on now that the season's over with, and we talked about that a little bit when the show first started today about the competitive equity factor and the point system that they use to slot the non-public schools. So to recap, Little Rock Christian, Pulaski Academy, both will be elevated to Class 7A. That will send Jonesboro and Fort Smith Southside down a classification to Class 6A. Shiloh Christian, just like Harding Academy, they had a brief run in Class 5A, went to back-to-back state championship games. They accumulated enough equity points where they're going to be elevated to 6A. The 6A West next year will have Greenwood and Fort Smith Southside and Shiloh Christian all in the same conference. Yeah.
With all of that, the one thing that's going to have to I'm going to have to get wrapped around my mind is to seeing the Fort Smith schools in separate classifications.
Yes.
That's something that I promise you, I could have bet years ago that would never ever happen.
Yeah.
And to see it about to happen anyway, that's something that really kind of blows my mind outside of everything else that's going on, all the other shake. But that there sticks out to me, and it's just odd, gonna be odd to see, honestly.
Little Rock Christian will remain in 6A. So that's been a good move for them, and they will remain. For a lot of years, they opted to bump up to the highest classification. They were having a hard time competing at that level with Bryant, with the emergence of Bryant and Conway and that kind of thing. And they said, you know what, we're going to play where we're supposed to play, and that's in 6A. So they're going to be in 6A. Oh, guess what? Benton is still also in 6A. So 6A is going to be. It was salty. It's still going to be salty.
It's still going to be salty, man. And Catholic has a lot of young kids there, so they're going to be good again. They're bringing the quarterback back, a lot of their playmakers. So they had a good year this year. They're going to be back again. 6A is going to be a real. Shiloh's bumped up. Southside now. It's 6A may very well be the most intriguing class. I mean, they were top. It was top heavy this year, but next year it's going to be some heat, and you're going to have probably 8 or 9 teams in that mix.
Yeah,
or at least a legit 6 in the mix all year, man.
The 5A West might be the most impacted conference in any of the conferences in the state. I don't know. I haven't looked at all of them, and I won't see that until Thursday. But enrollment-wise, both Huntsville and Gravette had the enrollment to bump them up to 5A. But because of what happened above them with Pulaski, Little Rock Christian jumping up to 7A, that bumps 2 teams down from 7A to 6A. That then bumps 2 teams that were in 6A down to 5A. So that's going to impact the 5A West big time. So the 5A West and what has been kind of a Northwest-centric conference is now going to be a Northwest Central-centric conference, if that makes sense. I'm getting way too big words here. But anyway, Huntsville, Prairie Grove goes back to 4A. Gravette remains in 4A. Huntsville drops down to 4A. The 5A Shiloh Christian goes up to 6A. So the 5A West is going to have a whole new look. It'll be Farmington, Alma, and then Harrison, and then they'll be joined by, I think, Valonia, Greenbrier, Morrilton, a lot of central area schools in the central part of the state, Clarksville. So it will look a lot different.
A whole lot different, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, with all that's shaking, man, it's it may be strange, but it's going to be intriguing.
Yeah.
Because you got a lot of newness with every class, particularly 6 and 5, that's going to create some really, really nice Friday nights.
Yeah.
With matchups, man. Just something that we get used to. But then again, I mean, it's just what happens, nowadays, and it's a change. But sometimes change is good.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, the Arkansas Activity Association on Thursday will release what the new conferences will be for the 2024 to 2026 cycle. They did it different this time. They did it the way it should have been done the first time they did this. They are slotting the non-public schools first based on the competitive equity factor and what, those other factors that they use. They're slotting them first, and then they're building backfilling, I guess, with the public schools for the 16, 16, 32, and so on and so on and so on in the other classifications. So it'll be a fun day on Thursday, seeing where everybody, all these schools shake out and how the balance of power will shift in some of these conferences.
I've had actually this morning I had two coaches asked me did I know when those will be released, and I told them on Thursday.
Yeah.
So there's already a lot of interest and
Yes.
with what's going to happen, when who's here, who's there. So that's going to be a really, really big day for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Well, that will wrap up this fall edition of the Eye on Preps podcast. We're going to take a couple of weeks off, and we'll be back in January, and we'll be talking about basketball and taking a look at maybe a little peek at some spring sports, in those podcasts or whatever. But man, I just want to wish Erick, you and your guys a happy holiday, and our listeners a happy holiday, and be safe, and we'll see you back in 2024.
Oh, no doubt, man. We got a whole lot left to talk about coming up, man. It's a lot of things going on. Like I said, with the spring sports, basketball is in full mode right now, and I've been my head down with that, rolling, man. So still a lot of stuff going on, man.
Yes, sir. Well, for Erick Taylor of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, I'm Chip Souza with the Hawgs Sports Network. We thank you for listening to our podcast all fall long. You guys have a happy and safe holiday, and we'll see you back in 2024.